for the opportunity that we have to come to class and to learn today. We ask you that we can be able to have a good discussion and that we can all learn something new and apply it to our lives. And we're grateful for our teachers, and we ask you that they may be able to have the Spirit to be with them and to be able to know what decisions to make best for our class. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks so much. All right, so just a few announcements. We will come back to the spring break, but this coming week, we're going to read the second third of Dante's Inferno, or, you determine how much you're going to read. I like to do more of it at the beginning than at the end. And then a written essay is due in 6 weeks. So I ask you this week to go look at that assignment and begin preparing. You're going to come up with your own thesis. There are some ideas on there if you'd like. If you just can't think of something that really resonates with you, contact me and I won't give you an idea of what to say, but I can help ask great questions to pull out what's in you. Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Okay. And then the number 3 oral final sign-up sheet is available in the sign-ups. Now, our oral finals are not going to be for 2 months, but if you could start looking at that and making sure that you can stay for the entire session. The sessions are broken up between 3 and 4 people. And please go sign up for that. I got that up early just because, Oh, Emma says you couldn't open up the oral final sign-up sheet again. Isn't that the weirdest thing? So can Matthew open it up? See if Matthew...
I'm gonna go check, and if I can, then she can.
Yeah, then she can sign up through that way. That is weird. Because what's happened is I have opened it up within the Google Classroom, which should allow everyone to be able to open it up. Is there somebody else who's having a hard time getting into it by raise of hands? Not like you have to sign up right now until you talk to your parents, but can you get in? Emma had a hard time with that last time, and she had just had a brand new computer, and there's some kind of setting. I think that it's crazy.
I think it's parent locked.
It's parent locked. Funny. Okay, well, let me know if you can get in, Matthew. Spring break, it looks like, Jasmine, if you'll put your name near March 22nd, that's when your family's going to take a break, but you doubt you're going to go on a trip, right? Okay. If anybody has a problem with me changing our spring break to March 15th, will you please private chat me? Otherwise, we may do that. So just private chat me if that's going to be a problem. That would be right after. No, that would be in the middle of, so that would be next week. We would talk about the second third of Dante's Inferno, and then you'd have a week in between before finishing Dante's Inferno. Okay, so, oh, that's okay, Matthew. I didn't even know. Were you swearing at your sister? No, just kidding.
No, I just kind of did a growl.
Oh,
that was pretty loud.
I didn't.
More of a yell. I don't swear.
I know you don't. I was just bugging you. Okay. All right. Let's get into. So I want to think about 3 questions today, and we will get to them at the end. But what does Dante's Inferno tell you about the Christian perception of hell? Okay. And we can use the word hell in here. That's a biblical word. We're not telling anyone to go there, and we're not using it as a swear word. We are using it as what it is used for. So think about, you know, how that Christian perception of hell has affected governments and peoples and civilizations and ideas, and it would be a really good discussion. And then also, if you looked through Dante's spiritual lens, like him, like where he's coming from, he has absolutely no knowledge of the restored gospel. If you looked through his spiritual lens, how would it affect your life? And then what is the equivalent of Dante's hell in the restored gospel? Because there is. Okay, so we'll talk about those questions, but I really want to go to your ideas. But I want you to notice way down below in the class notes, I have added some renditions of hell. And you see the first one is Michelangelo Catani's cross section of hell that he created in 1855. And you'll see that it's this earth, and that hell takes up a third of it, and it goes down to the center of the earth. And you can go down below and you'll see several others that are very similar. Botticelli is the third one, and he is an artist. He painted he painted in the Renaissance era, beautiful paintings. And then there's Johannes Stradanus in 1587. You can see also the whole, it's a hell map by Aldus Manutius, a Venetian publisher, and this was done in the 15th century. So this was done in the 1400s. And then a more modern one that was done 21 years ago, by McCullough, and it's a more modern one. And then the one on the very bottom shows the entire Divine Comedy. So did you know that this is only one volume of the Divine Comedy? The Divine Comedy starts with Inferno, and then it takes you to Purgatory. Well, hell, then Purgatory, and then Paradise. Okay, so each one of these books is about the same length, and it will take you all the way through those three places according to what they felt the scriptures were teaching them. Okay. Does somebody want to look up online what purgatory means?
I found it.
Okay, great. Andrew, what does it mean?
It says, a place or state of suffering inhabited by the souls of sinners who are expiating their sins before going to heaven.
Okay, so in hell, they are waiting, okay? But in purgatory, they're actually going to be doing a bunch of things to pay for the sins that they did, okay? So there's no Christ that pays for it. It's that they are paying for it, okay? Thank you. Anything else you got from that, Andrew, that maybe I didn't say?
No, I think it's good.
Okay. So if you look down at that very bottom picture, that, what do you call it? It's not really a picture, it's an image. You can see that hell goes down all the way through the earth. And then we haven't really read about Lucifer yet. You won't read about him until the last part of the book, but he is frozen in water. Okay. So then you see this little pathway to purgatory. I'm not quite sure if that's for everybody that's in hell or if it's just for Dante and Virgil to walk through. And so that then they're going to go all the way through this idea of purgatory where people are actually paying for their sins. And then somehow they get up to paradise where they're going to be honored and everything's going to be great. And there's already people up there because they've earned it. And anyway, so I just thought it would be interesting for you to look at that as we go through, and just have it there at your fingertips. All right, let's go to
I have a
the,
question.
yeah, sure.
Why is like the Dante's Inferno, like why is that the most popular one? Like when people say Dante's Inferno, that's the one they read. They don't, I haven't heard of the other ones before. Why is that?
Yeah, okay, so first of all, in my humanities class 4 years ago, we actually read all three. But you're not from the generation that used to just start the Book of Mormon and they knew everything about 1st and 2nd Nephi, because that was way back when we didn't read the Book of Mormon. I've lived that long where we didn't even talk about Christ. We just started the Book of Mormon and we talked a lot about faith and beautiful faith building stories about the pioneers, and it was great. But the focus on the church was not to read the Book of Mormon all the way through. I remember on my mission when the prophet asked us to begin to read the Book of Mormon because we were under a condemnation in this nation and the world because we haven't been reading it. So I think for one part, people tend to just focus on the first one, and then they don't end up having time to focus on the others. Let me close my door. My washer is spinning and it's making all this noise. So I think we start it because it's the first one. But if anyone's interested in reading the other two in the summer, I would lead a discussion if you wanted to. So just let me know. That's a great question. Any other questions? Okay, and by the way, I offered that to one of my humanities classes a few years ago for some other books. And I had a group of like 3 or 4 people during the summer. We read and studied together, and it was really fun. So if anybody's interested, we could go through it. All right, Matthew, were you able to get into the sign-up sheet?
No, I tried adjusting screen settings and stuff, but it won't let us in. I've never had it happen. I've only had it happen a time or two before. And it's always on websites that I need to get into and that have no reason to be locked out.
Oh, okay. Will you two, do you have time to stay after class today just for a minute? We'll work on it.
Yeah, I can always try another computer though, because these ones are newer.
But
So it might just be the older ones will work.
let's just take 5 minutes after class and try and get you in. Okay. Let's go into can we start with Jasmine? Let's go to your question.
Yeah. So my question is, how does one's memory affect their future? I found an article kind of about this.
Give us a little context. What part of the book caused you to think of that?
I'm trying to remember. I'll have to go get my book and find the spot. But I was just gonna ask, because I found this article about it. It says memories of past events play a key role in how our brains model what's happening in the present and predict what is likely to occur in the future, according to a new study. Memory isn't for trying to remember, it's for doing better the next time. So
wow.
Yeah, I just kind of was curious what you guys think of that, if you guys agree with that, if you think that your memory is best for not necessarily like reminiscing on past events, but it's for like training yourself to like notice what you did wrong and how to do better the next time. So yeah, what do you guys think of that? And I'll go get my book.
I like that. I don't know why it's there. We go.
I got the sign up sheet to work.
Oh, you did? Cool.
I just had to get my mom's fingerprint to allow the access to it.
Okay, awesome.
So
then go ahead and sign up, you and Emma. That's weird. That is just weird.
well, yeah, it's just like I've had it so it cuts me out and won't even let me type my own papers on Google Docs. So
Well, it sounds like you figured it out. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so Jasmine left, but did she say memory is for doing better in the future? Is that what she said?
I think that was the gist of it.
Ooh, what do you guys think about that? Emma?
When you said that, it reminded me of a movie, or it's also a book. It's called The Giver, and I don't know who all has either read that or seen it, but I really like the movie. I haven't actually read the book though. And memory, they have like a receiver of memory because nobody else has memory, and that person, the reason they have one person that still has memory is to help them make better decisions for the future. So I agree with that statement that memory is to help us do better in the future. Otherwise, you wouldn't learn from your past mistakes.
Wow. I like that. I'm going to even put in improving. I don't know if I've ever thought about that. Well, and how would that have to do with the reading that we're going through, this Inferno? Or Enoch, do you have something before we answer that question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think you can have one with the other. I do think it is very important that it does train us for the future, but without the memories to help you get through the hard times, like the joyful memories, then you would have a lot harder time to get through them.
So you've got an argument for, well, no, but both of those. How is that different than what she was saying?
It wasn't different. I was just adding on to it, saying that it's not one or the other, it's both.
I love it. Cool. Carter, that looks fun. Swinging around in your chair. Oh, yeah. So what does it make you think of in the book? This memory and how it affects the future. Elijah, expound.
So we had a bit of a discussion about this the other day, just me and some friends. We were talking about, would you rather not be able to make any new memories or lose all of your old ones? We were just talking about this, and I think somehow we were talking about this in identity. And I think when you boil down, your character and a person's identity, most of that is within their memories. I mean, memories are not perfect recollections of past events. They have our little perception attached to it, and they have our little lessons attached to it. So if you take out someone's memory, I mean, I feel like they're a bit of a, maybe not blank slate, but they're definitely not who they used to be. And so, I definitely agree that memory works as a way to transfer the future, but I also think that, if that's how we look at memory, we can look at memory as a way to, as like a mentor or a teacher. But I think we can also look at memory as more of a self-introspective kind of sense, and that the way that we look at our past events and the way that we internalize them is, I guess, how we think of ourselves and how we think of our world.
Yeah, who we are.
Yeah, it's all kind of meshed into that same memory, I guess.
I like that. Super good. Jasmine, did you find the place? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I did find the place.
Tell
I don't
us
know
what
if
page.
it's really gonna help, but it's chapter 2, line 8 and 9. It says
Give us the page number. That might be more helpful.
my book doesn't have page numbers.
Oh, are you in this book?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the top, on some of them, there shouldn't be, or there aren't page numbers, but there will be on the next page. Over.
Okay, so
That's
it's
new.
page 25.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
25, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's really gonna help us. I just like kind of wrote off to the side, like, memory, do we take it for granted? And then it just kind of evolved into how does your memory affect your future?
Okay, so line 6, which memory unerring shall retrace. So we're prepared to face the struggle of the way and of the pity of it, which memory unerring shall retrace, which is interesting because Elijah just said a truth that we don't have perfect memories. And yet is Dante saying that our memory is, we can't err with our memory here? Do you think? Is that what he's saying? What do you think?
I mean, I don't think he's really talking about memory in general. I think he's just talking about this one specific memory.
Okay.
And unerring shall retrace kind of, I don't know, it feels like it's more about like, it's not like my memory works perfectly, but more about like this one event is impossible to forget.
Okay.
That's kind of how I take it. Like, he's I don't really know the context, but like he's getting prepared to face the struggle, and he's kind of saying like, no matter what, this memory is going to come back to me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just writing something that came up to my mind on here. Cool. So how does this have to do? Why would we want to know? Why would we need to know that one's memory is to help us identify our identity and help us do better in the future? Why would we want to know that? What would it help? What would it change for us? What does it change for us by knowing that our memory is for those two purposes?
Is
Well,
that
oh, go ahead, Jeff. Go
okay?
first.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking, but is that something that we have to like learn to do? Like, learn how to use our memory to make our future better? Or is that kind of a natural instinct?
What do you think?
One thing that your comment just reminded me of is, a lot of therapists will ask their patients to like rewrite or at least like retell past like traumatic events as a way of like reclaiming that memory. And I think that works in a similar way. I think, we were talking about how, memories are not objective, and there are like, especially in this book, we were just talking about how some memories are almost impossible to forget. And so, one of the most healthy ways to look at these like memories is to face them, to go like head first into them. And I think that's exactly what like kind of the whole theme of Inferno is. He's going into literal hell. He's going into this darkness, and that's a way of kind of resolving these like unerring memories, I guess, or these unerring traumas.
Ooh, I like that. Heading face to face into the darkness, trying to figure out and learn from it. Because he is not blamed for any of these things that these people are doing. He is actually just looking at it, right? And we are with him. We're on it. We are not accused of anything. He's not accused of anything. We are actually just going in and seeing what others have been accused for and looking at it. So could we be learning from others' examples by going through the Inferno? And how does that memory help us? Yeah, Jacoby, right on. And also the memories of what he's seen, some of his friends and some of the popes and some of these people and what they've done, according to Dante. Of course, this is all biased. But at least he's facing what other people have done. And yeah, our example can help to make a future better as well. Love that. Thank you. That was a great discussion, Jasmine. Is there anybody else that wants to add something to this before we go on to another one? Okay, that was really, really cool. Let's go to Emma's. Go ahead, take us, Emma, and try and help us go to the page number 2, kind of where you might have gotten this idea.
I didn't really have a page number. I kind of just do the reading, and then any questions that come to mind is what I write down or whatever. So there wasn't a page number, but my question is, does Virgil represent someone in our lives? And it wasn't a very good question, I guess, compared to other ones that I'm reading, but
no,
I was just curious if we try to apply that to our lives, since he shows up to help Dante find his way to heaven or whatever, does that represent God? Or I just was interested in everybody's thoughts.
I think that's a great question. Who does Virgil represent to you?
Something kind of funny is that as I was reading the book, I didn't catch that the guide was Virgil, and I kind of thought for a few pages that the guide was Christ. And so that's kind of funny that you bring that up, because I did think for a little bit that the guide was actually Christ until I figured out that it was Virgil. But I think that they're doing similar things.
That's awesome. And Virgil is one of the only epic writers that lived near the time of Christ too, which is really interesting as well. Anybody else have another idea of who Virgil could?
I think Virgil really represents a good mentor. He's leading Dante through this hard thing, or this hard journey. And he's helping him along the way, explaining things to him, being patient. And sometimes he's carrying him when he falls. That's, I think, a good example of a mentor.
Fantastic.
I think what's most interesting about Virgil's role as a guide in this is he's an active member of this kind of hellscape. I don't know if the Christ parallel would work perfectly, because he's, one of those souls trapped in hell. Even when he introduces himself, he doesn't introduce himself as Virgil. He says something like, "I'm the spirit of Virgil," or something. He's kind of this shell of what he used to be. And a lot of it kind of was super foreboding, as in this Virgil's trying to warn Dante, I guess. And for some reason, I don't know why, but while I was reading this, I kept on thinking about A Christmas Story. I don't know why that happened, but I think it had to do mostly with just the different levels of hell, and how there are different hours for different kind of lessons. And also, I think it was Marley? I think Marley's ghost comes and warns Scrooge about that. So that was just something that I thought. But one thing that is interesting is, at least in this version, they have little notes attached to a lot of the lines, or annotations.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, or one of the notes I thought was really interesting. Let me see if I can find it. Was talking about this kind of I guess feminine trinity. I think it was Beatrice who sends Virgil, and I don't know which. Oh yeah, okay. So on page 39, under the 53 to 54 annotation, they talk about Beatrice's first appearance, I guess. And at the very end, they kind of liken her unto the second person of the Trinity, which is Christ. And I think that works really well because, you know, I think it works well because so often, like kind of Emma was hinting in her phrasing of her question, you know, Christ or God or the Holy Ghost, I guess, will just send people or mentors, like Andrew was saying earlier, to kind of guide us through things so that we can act, or mentors can act as their hands. So
Yeah. Excellent. Just one note of interest. Dante's love was Beatrice, and she died as a young person, and it was utterly devastating to him. So he puts her in as one of the highest guides, the highest person in this work. So just that's something interesting to think of. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment? So I really I think it's okay to think of Virgil as anything for you. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. This is one of those discussions where it can mean, Virgil can mean somebody different for each one of us. Yes, she is his ideal. Excuse me. Sorry. That was a terrible burp. I hope no one heard it. Anybody else that Virgil represents? So this is a really personal thing for me, but so in my patriarchal blessing, and I'm going to share this personal thing, but I'm not going to share the words or anything, but there are 6 paragraphs of the 13 paragraphs. 6 of those paragraphs talk about this kind of an education. And I didn't find it until I was 40. But then it talks a few times about the counselors in my education that will help to guide me. And I often have, I mean, Virgil's not right here in front of me right now, but I've got Homer. I'm reading the Iliad with a couple of young boys. I mentor them all through the whole year. So we're going 39 months without stopping. But anyway, we're reading the Iliad right now together. And I would have to say that not only have there been counselors that have been current people in my life, but counselors like Homer, counselors like Dante, counselors like Virgil. Even though I don't agree with everything that they say, they have been those guides that have guided me through something that I needed to learn. Mortimer Adler is one of the more current guides, but he's dead as well. We're going to pretty soon read Joan of Arc, and I feel like she is one of my most sacred guides. Of course, Christ is the most sacred, but you know what I mean? So I feel like Virgil, to me, represents those beautiful characters and authors of the great conversation that have taken me on many, many journeys. Anybody else want to share something that's coming to their mind? Okay. Somebody was going to say something.
I'm sorry. I was like, I clicked it like too slow. But so I think of like my parents. I kind of like the fact that they're Virgil isn't perfect, and he hasn't gone all the way to the depths of hell. He's only been in his own. So it's kind of like they're journeying together, even though he has more experience and he's more comfortable in the environment. Maybe not comfortable, but more experienced in the environment. It's still a journey that they're going through together. So it's not like one-sided.
Yes. I love it. How many times has Virgil gone through this? Does anybody remember? I wrote it down somewhere here. Didn't it say he'd gone through once before? Now I can't find it.
I think it did. It was near the part where he gets rejected from going in.
Maybe that's where it is. Shoot,
But
I should have put it in the front of my book. I don't know about you, but if you get something really interesting, put it, like index it in the front or the back of your book in those blank plate pages. That's what would be really awesome to do. Sometimes I forget to do that, but it's really worth it. Excellent. And I think Carter, you were going to say something too.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Virgil could kind of be compared more to a prophet than to like Christ, since he's not perfect, but he's more than what Dante is. So he's able to help him with what he can, and then Christ will just meet him in the middle.
Ah, that's a good way to look at it too. Excellent. Anything else? Wow, I love all this. Okay, let's go to Gracie. Yours is intriguing to me. I'd love to go there. Can we go to yours? All of these are intriguing. What am I saying?
My question was, I kind of worded it funny because I can think of how to do this, but it says, what things in life could this quote represent? And it's found on page 9. It says, her greedy appetite is never sated. I think. After she feeds, she is hungrier than ever. And I think that's talking about the wolf. But like when I read that, like I don't know, it just seems like we've talked about something like this before, like power maybe, like once you get power, people become greedy for more.
Yeah.
Things.
What does sated mean? Did anybody look that up?
Yeah, it means satisfied.
Yeah. So it's definitely, the etymology of it comes from the the Latin word. And it's, yeah, they're never satisfied, Gracie, right? Wow. So that's why the love of, we'll go back to what we were talking about last week. That's why the love of power, the love of money, it's never going to be satisfied. And that's why it's a sin. It's just, we're going to be focused on the wrong thing. I mean, that's a general way of seeing it, right? But excellent. Anybody else have some ideas about that? What things in life would this quote represent? And I've got Emma saying power or money. Her greedy appetite is never sated. After she feeds, she is hungrier than ever. What else? Is it just money or power? Can there be something else? Fame and attention? Yes. What else? Oh my gosh, talk about revenge. I'm so sick and tired of Achilles. I could just avenge. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, good one. These are all really good. None of these things will ever satisfy us. Why? Why don't they satisfy us?
They're worldly things, and we're striving to be like Christ, so a worldly thing will never be enough. And even with how worldly things are. Even if you're striving to be worldly, you're never going to have enough of that either.
On the opposite end of that, like I also came up with like knowledge. Like sometimes when we learn, we like get this hunger to know more. And so I mean that's like that can be satisfied, but I just kind of thought came to my mind that once we're hungry for knowledge, we just go, like it's easy to pursue lots of different things.
Yeah, and we could do it for good or bad, probably. Yeah. Jasmine, you were going to say something.
I don't know. I don't know if this makes sense, but yeah, I was just kind of thinking like someone could also not be like somebody could be striving to be like Christ and not be satisfied with their own progress, you know? So yeah, I think that every now and then we kind of have to get what's the word? I don't know, just something from God telling us that we're doing a good job and we're progressing, because the way that our society thinks is that we're not doing good until we reach the best mark that we can possibly be. So
and society tells us that, but we also tell ourselves that if we are perfectionists. Do you know what I mean by perfectionists? Does anybody understand what a perfectionist is? Andrew, you're nodding your head.
I am a perfectionist at times.
Okay, so what does it mean? What does it mean? And I'm not saying we shouldn't be virtuous in the things that we do, and that we shouldn't be like a knife is only virtuous if it's sharpened and it can do what it's supposed to do. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the actual perfectionist idea that damns our progress. Go ahead, Matthew. What were you going to say?
So for me, being perfectionist is like, I have to have everything right. It drives me insane if I mess up on anything, and everything has to be in its right position. I tend to get mad at people or things if they're not doing things the way I want them. And it's just, everything has to be just right. Otherwise, it's not right. There's no two ways to do things. And so it can be good at times when you're doing a job, but when it's working with people, it can be a very big disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. So you could, and see if this goes where you're wanting it to go, Jasmine, but you could go to Gracie's cell there and you could say, her perfectionism never satisfies. The more perfect she is, the more perfect she wants to be. Meaning, you can kind of plug those words in. So even though society tells us this is where we need to go, sometimes we tell ourselves that too, and we're not satisfied, are we? And so I think it would be good to remember that being a perfectionist in that sense also never satisfies us. Hannah, welcome to class. We are actually using the class notes running doc, and we just finished talking about Gracie's. If you will add something there too, that would be great. Let's go to Andrew's. Andrew, tell us about yours.
Okay. So my question was, how does Dante change as he travels through the levels of hell?
Okay, good question.
Because I think some changes happen too as he travels through and he sees people that he knew from life, that he starts thinking, is this really where I want to end up? Do I want to end up like these people? And so he starts to decide like what he wants for himself. I think that was a big moment.
Wow. Yeah. Did anybody else notice some changes?
I noticed at the beginning he was very sorrowful, and still at where I'm at anyways, he still is sorrow. He does have lots of sorrow for those in hell, but then in one section of it, and when they're crossing the lake or whatever, the person, I forgot his name anyways, tries to grab him, and he was really mad at him because he knew he deserved it. And so it's kind of like he got to a point where this person deserved it, but he was sad for those that didn't deserve it.
Yes. Yes. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Let's go to Elijah. This one is fascinating too. Page 20.
Okay. Yeah. So on page 27, line 32, which is one of like the first, I guess, introductions we get to Dante's like inner monologue. He's kind of talking to himself. I'll just read that whole book. He says, "But why should I go there? Who allows it? I am not Aeneas, nor am I Paul, neither nor any think me fit for this." This is just kind of talking about, I guess, his call to adventure. I think it's really interesting that he noted these two figures. We've talked a lot about Aeneas, so we've talked a bit about Paul because he's very associated with Christianity. And so I was just curious, like why these two names? What's the significance of this? What does this tell us about Dante? Like, why is this here? This is such an interesting line, I guess, maybe just to me, but I think it is really expressive to his character as well. I just was curious what everyone thought about that.
I liked this line too. I've got tons of words written. Yeah. Why would he say that? I am not Aeneas, nor am I Paul. What do those two have in common? Does anybody know what Paul has been doing after Christ is gone? What does Paul do?
Doesn't he journey across like the ancient Brit, like through Corinth and all those other places, and preaches to them?
Yes. How many times?
Didn't he do it 3 times?
He has 4 journeys all around the Mediterranean, all around that old world. Yes, 4 journeys. What does Aeneas do?
He's journeyed all over the Mediterranean as well.
All the way to Rome, right? Yeah, he did. And he went to the same places as the Odyssey. I don't have that book here. I have a bunch of books right here, but I don't have that one. But yeah, so all of these same places, Cherubid and Scylla and the island. I mean, he went all the same places basically as Paul. So why is he saying this now? But why should I go there? Who allows it? Where are they talking about when they say there? Maybe you have to go up a little bit further. Where is there? Later, the chosen vessel went there to bring back confirmation of our faith. Is it Rome? Are they talking about Rome? So this is the first time I've ever thought of this, Elijah. Are they talking about Rome? Because Paul goes to Rome, Aeneas goes to Rome. They're talking about the popes. For in the Empyrean he was chosen to father Holy Rome and her dominion. Both of these established, if we would speak the truth, to be sacred precinct where successors of great Peter have their throne. On this journey for which you grant him glory, he heard the words that prompted him to victory and prepared the papal mantle. Later, the chosen vessel went there to bring back a confirmation of our faith, the first step in our journey to salvation. And he's saying, why should I go there? Who allows it? I'm not Aeneas, nor am I Paul. Neither nor any think me fit for this. What are you thinking? Where is this place?
I don't know how, if he's talking about a place. It does say, if you flip over to page 38, it says, it has frequently been remarked that Dante's denial must be taken ironically when the protagonist says it is not what the author thinks. Dante is understood to be both the new Aeneas and the new Paul. So I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Is that number 28 that you're looking at?
38 and then 32.
Page, oh, and 32. Oh, thank you. And then up above, number 28. Okay, so we know that Aeneas has gone to the underworld, but has, with regard to the question of whether or not Dante believed Paul had been to hell, as recounted in Viso Pauli, see Padoan's comment with bibliography, blah, blah, blah. Most commentators would seem to believe that Dante is here alluding only to Paul's heavenly journey, not to his apocryphal descent. Interesting. So maybe they're talking about a journey to Rome and also journey through hell, because we do know Aeneas did go down to the underworld, right?
I just read it as like the willingness to go on that journey. I think the thing that kind of unites both Aeneas and Paul is just their, like, I guess, bravery and a little bit of different aspects. Paul has this kind of spiritual kind of transformation and this spiritual kind of I put in the chat, he brings about this spiritual domain of the church, and Aeneas is the hero who brings about the like physical domain of Rome. And so both of these like figures are, not only brave, but they're bringing about this like restoration of, or not restoration, but this kind of
founding.
I don't know, this new, yeah, I guess founding, that's the word. They're founding this new kind of land in Aeneas's case, and I guess church. And maybe he's not founding it, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, at least how I read it, was Dante kind of had this self-crippling doubt, and that like he's like, who am I? I'm not one of these great heroic people. Why should I be the one who goes down into the depths of hell and go throughout this, long and taxing journey? That's just not something that I'm up to the task for. But
Yeah. Wow. So who would have thought we could go so far with just a line like that, and a line like what Gracie has said? Do you see how important it is to have discussions, and why we come to the classes to have discussions? Because I just learned some things. We don't know exactly what he's saying there, but it obviously means many, many different things, and we can learn from it. This is like an interdisciplinary thing that he's bringing in here. Awesome. Anybody else want to add to this? Oh, Jolene says, how often do we think we aren't qualified for the missions God has sent us to earth to do? Yes. Yeah. And then Elijah's questions there in green, what does it tell us? What does it ask us? How are you going to be better just by knowing those who have gone before you, who have traveled before you? I think that's a great lesson. Anybody else have something you want to add to that? All right, let's go to Carter. Carter?
Okay, so my quote that I have the question on is on page 49. It's lines, I think, 46 to 48. And it says, they have nope, that's the wrong one. Never mind. I'm not sure where it is, but the quote, I just wonder what we can learn from this quote. We should fear these things alone that have power to harm. Nothing else is frightening. I'm not sure where it is. I'll try and find it, but it's different than the one I found in my book.
We should fear these things alone that have power to harm.
It's on page 31. It's lines 97 to 90.
Wait, I'm off. Page 31, you say?
Yeah,
And then lines 97?
97 to 90. So very top of the page.
87 to 90. I heard 90.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Okay. So who's speaking?
This is Virgil speaking, I think. Yeah, it's Virgil talking to Beatrice.
Okay, Virgil's talking to Beatrice. Yeah. And she says, why am I not afraid to enter here on the page before? We should fear those things alone that have the power to harm. What does that mean? What could that mean? This is a great quote. Because we could go so many places with this. What does it mean we should fear those things alone that have the power to harm? What has the power to harm? And let's just establish that. What has power to harm? A lion. What else?
Generally things that are physical.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, do we fear things that really can't harm us, but we fear them? And what could some of those be? Emma, agency. People make choices that can hurt others. Yeah. Yes. Other people, we don't like it when everybody else has agency because they could hurt us. Yeah.
I think this fits really well into the discussion that we had based on Jasmine's, I guess, epiphany. And that, like, I mean, often we know not to touch stoves because they cause us harm, and we can remember that. It's a painful memory. It's obvious. But then there are things that are a little bit less, recognizable that still causes pain, and those are still in our memories, right? So we can have, I guess, negative experiences mentally or emotionally, and those are just as harmful, I would say, if not more, honestly. And I think this kind of has the same kind of this quote, these three lines kind of have the same kind of point, I guess, as the earlier discussion we were talking about, going straight into the darkness. I think what it makes darkness so powerful is just kind of like, okay, this is going to get a little bit weird, but just
have patience with you.
Yeah, I'm going to try to explain this.
Okay.
I can't articulate it very well, but I think what gives darkness its like greatest power is its fog, and that, like, the less that we understand about, evil and darkness, the more power it has over us, because we really are, not very well experienced with navigating through it. So this whole book is kind of this navigation through sin. And only once we navigate through something or understand it at a level can we truly be able to recognize it and reject it. And those are two very important parts. And I think those are kind of the thesis of Dante's Inferno, recognizing sin and rejecting it. And we can only do those after they are somewhat discernible to us. And so, fearing things that we have no power over that can harm us is useful, but fearing things that, we can completely control and that we can, that doesn't really harm us, that has a lot of power over us, but we can, once we know about that, we can stop that. We can learn our own role in that. And I think that's a good, lesson we can learn from these two lines.
You did extremely well in articulating, Elijah. That was awesome. And this is a very good way to look at that. I like the way you use this fog. When we don't understand something, we react. Let me think if I can think of something. I can't think of anything particular, but maybe you can. When you don't understand something, you hear some little thing and you react because you don't understand the full story. That's similar to, that's the opposite of what's happening. He's being taken down to see clearly according to the Christian perception, the other Christian perception, what these sins are. He's getting a knowledge of them. It's becoming more clear. Interesting. Anybody want to add something to that? Excellent. And Isaac, let's try that again. Elijah. Let's go to Enoch. Right above Elijah. Tell us where you would like to go.
All right. I got this idea from page 157, line 120, when Virgil says, "Who dares deny me access to the realm of pain?" So my question was, what principles were Dante and Virgil living that made the fallen angels not want them to continue? Because usually, if evil likes to come and grab you and pull you in, but in this case, they wanted to keep him out because of their choices to do good. So what are your thoughts on that?
Who dares deny me access to the realm of pain? What comes to your mind when you hear that? Are any of you old enough to have gone through this, any like pain, mental, physical? Probably physical, sure. Spiritual, mental, emotional pain? Who dares deny me access to the realm of pain? What principle is in? I like how Enoch is asking what principles.
This is probably completely off, but it kind of makes me think of how we have the choice to go to that pain when it's mental or emotional. It's kind of a choice that we subconsciously make, and that the angels are kind of denying Virgil his agency there, and maybe that's why it bugs him so much. I guess it could be put, and maybe that's just random too, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
I don't know if it's random. I think it's spot on. I think it's like a good place to go there. What else? Oh, is it? Is it, Elijah? Is pain a teacher?
I mean, like we've been talking about earlier with memories, yeah, as long as you look at it with the right, I guess, kind of perspective, you can always learn something from your memories, even your painful ones, especially your painful ones, because those are the ones that will make you self-correct. So if you can use that pain to, reorder yourselves or repivot, I guess, in your direction, then yeah, pain is very.
Yeah. Emma, have you learned from failures? I can't even imagine you fail. We do. We learn from pain. We learn from failures. And here this fallen angel understands that. Why do we get into the DDT? Do you know what I'm saying when I say DDT? The dreaded drama triangle. Why do we get into the DDT when we've got pain in our life? When something sad's happening, we get into this and we want to resist this pain. We don't want it there. We want to have a perfect life. We want everything to be perfect. Why? To emotionally protect ourselves.
And to hide from it, because then you don't have to deal with it, though you do. It makes it worse in the long run, but it's a illusion that makes it feel like you don't have to deal with it.
Yeah. Welcome back, Naomi. She can't probably hear me, but yes. So pain is essential to experiencing joy, as Jolene says in the chat box. We have to feel pain, don't we? We have to feel failure. We have to feel things go wrong if we're going to really understand happiness. And it's however we react to that pain. Obviously, this person, this fallen angel, wants to have this pain because they'll learn from it. They'll learn from the pain, right? Oh, I love that. How many do we have left? Have we done, and we've done Andrew's, Enoch's, Gracie's, Carter. Have we done yours? We have? Oh yeah, we did. We just did it. That was dumb. Okay. I wrote down 5 levels of reading. There's tons of different different theories out there about the levels of reading, but I wanted, here we're reading things that really don't have to do with our gospel. Well, they do in many ways, but we're reading a lot of things that don't really probably stick out to you a lot. And I want you to look underneath the table there. I've got 5 ways. The first level is your reaction to the book. Oh, it's a good book, or oh, it's a bad book. But there's no thinking involved in there. And that sometimes we will say so fast, it's either good or it's bad. And we won't think. So a lot of times people stay in that first level of reading. But what we want to do is we want to get down to the 5th level. The 2nd level, somebody want to read that one? Who could read that one? Maybe I will share my screen just so we can. Okay, so I'm right here. 2nd one, can someone read that for me that maybe hasn't participated today?
I can read that.
Okay, go ahead.
What are the positive lessons I can take away from the good in this work? Make a list of things you agree with or disagree with.
Okay, so that's a second level. You can look at some things in this work that's going to give you some positive lessons, right? And then the third level, who can read that one for us? Whoops.
I can.
Thanks.
What are the lessons I can take away from the bad in the work or the things I disagree with?
Ooh. So this is harder because sometimes we want to not face that pain, right? Sometimes we don't want to face the things that we disagree with. I'm going to stop this for a second. Has anybody ever heard of Karl Popper? Karl Popper is probably one of the most famous scientists in our day. I think he's dead now, but I have a book that I studied of his, and there's a huge section in his book called falsification. And he says any good scientist and any good reader for that matter should falsify their own opinions about things. And I'm not talking about your testimony of Jesus Christ, okay? Not talking about that. I'm talking about maybe your opinion about how government should be, or your opinion about how parents should be, or how they should raise kids, or whatever it is. But you should, he says, if you want to understand your side, you need to falsify. You need to falsify it. You need to pick it apart and question yourself and really put it down. And then really look at every part of it. Okay. So that's level 3. What lessons can I take away from the things that I don't agree with? I'm just looking at this. Why not your testimony? Well, we could probably stay after class and talk about that, but usually you don't want to doubt. You want to doubt your doubts about Christ. And we've been told that we want to always believe in him. We don't want to doubt him, and we don't want to doubt our testimony of him, because I think we can question, but we don't want to falsify Christ, and we don't want to falsify our testimonies. Whatever that means to you, it may mean something different than what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is we don't want to at all do what my 4 brothers did, because now they're completely lost. It's kind of sad. So what you want to do is you want to falsify your opinions. Okay, I'm not saying falsify truths, because truths are there. We just know that they're there, right? Okay, so truth. I'm talking about truth, not dogmatism, I'm talking about opinions. Okay? Blind opinions. And if we are dogmatic in anything, Elijah, we haven't asked the right questions, because dogmatic just means you're so faithful to a certain tenet of something that can be proved wrong. Okay. But you should always prove truths through the Spirit, because the Spirit can teach you all things. So in the falsification that I'm talking about is different. It's actually your opinions that you have for yourself. You need to falsify them. That's what I'm talking about. Testimonies are not opinions. But we could talk about this after class or whatever. But I think that's, I don't know. I want to get to this 4th level, and then if we have some time after, we can talk about this. So 4, what great messages does this great classic have specifically for me, my needs, and my effectiveness in my roles and purpose? Okay. So then that's where you're taking it inside and you're actually saying, how can this book really change me? How can I use it? Okay. Who could read number 5?
I can.
Okay.
What for me is the big idea, the overarching transformational theme of this work?
Okay. There's been several books that I have gone to level 1 and I've hated with all my heart. But I decided to go deeper and start to go through these different levels. And I have come away with a huge, big idea, an overarching transformational theme of books like Mein Kampf or what is Mao's book called? It's a little red book that I have over in my, I can't remember the name of it. And when I read the Communist Manifesto, I'm talking about books in the Great Conversation, Elijah. And he just sent me a private message. But no, I'm talking about, does anybody know what the Great Conversation is? Maynard Hutchins talks about it in the great books at the beginning in the Syntopicon and the introduction to the great book set. He talks about the great conversation that deals with all the important questions of life. I'm talking about those kinds of books, not Twilight. So anyway, I've gotten to those books where I've hated with all my heart, and Carter, this might be Frankenstein for you, right? What is a big overarching transformational idea I can get from this work that's going to really help me become the better person I am? So that's what I'm asking you to do, is if you're reading something that totally you're on level 1, you think it's bad, you think it's good, whatever, go deeper, go to those other levels and really ask yourself. So, okay. Anybody have any comments about those levels? And have you ever read a book going through those levels? Maybe without knowing what those levels are, but have you ever had an experience where Carter, you're not going to share anymore because you've already shared this, but anybody else where you've read a book that you were on level 1 with it, it was dumb. You didn't like this book. And it has to be, of course, a book that's part of the Great Conversation, but have you ever gone through the different levels and you really realize that it has a big idea for you? Naomi, it's so good to see you. Well, think about it. As you deal with books that are painful, go through those levels with them. Now, I don't know the answer, Elijah, to, let's take a few minutes. I don't know the answer to falsifying your testimony. I don't. Just my first reaction, trying to get out of the fog of it, I would say, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I've gone through and paid the price to know that Jesus Christ is the Savior. I know that President Nelson is our prophet. I know he is a prophet. I just know it. So why would I falsify something that I already know to be true? That's what I'm asking.
I mean, I think this might be maybe more of a personal thing. And I know that you've lived through a lot more experience, so that obviously helps. But I think especially when you have less experience, falsifying things that even you know to be true can be really useful in strengthening those convictions. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of falsification. It's testing how well you know something. I mean,
that's true.
I think that especially if you are a little bit less advanced, I guess, maybe in that realm of your testimony, then you might want some guidance when it comes to falsification, because you don't want to get trapped in your own questions. But I couldn't see a downside besides that, as long as you have someone, I guess, to help you answer those questions. I couldn't see a downside to questioning your testimony, and that you are questioning your own conviction to it, you're questioning its reality. And I think it can also really help you talk to other people about it as well.
Yeah.
Because if you are always sticking to the same kind of mode of thinking, and that like, oh, I don't even need to question that, this is obvious, then it makes you, I mean, not only closed-minded about it, but it limits your perception. And I think a broader perception when it comes to this, not a broader perception to the truth of it, but a broader perception in your understanding of it can really only give you more wisdom when it comes to dealing with anything around it.
In many ways, the price that I did pay to get my testimony, I did become more sure. But the ways that my brothers did to falsify their testimony led them to works that and writings that actually led them on this dead end, but gave them justification for doing what they really want to do. They really want to do worldly things. And so by denying God, they're able to do those worldly things. So I guess falsification for what reason? Is it to really find the truth and to become good people? Or is it to justify yourself to go and live a worldly life?
I mean, even you just kind of explained it right there. I mean, there was kind of an ulterior motive behind that. So it wasn't, I guess, like real falsification.
Yeah.
I think that really works well with this book as well, because, you know, Dante doesn't go into hell by himself. He doesn't, you know, navigate the worst place imaginable. He has this kind of guide to kind of fall back on to help him. And I think, you know, even if we don't have a physical person to help us with that, maybe, you know, we can always pray. We always have that. We always have, you know, other, you know, books, prophets. I mean, obviously there's a lot of sources that you should look to and that we have access to, especially nowadays. So,
yeah,
I mean, it is going to be a painful journey to falsify your own testimony, but I think it's a worthwhile one.
And as a writing teacher, I would always make sure that my students did 6-paragraph paper rather than a 5. And those of you who have taken my writing class, why do I do that? Hello?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Yes. Why do I have you write a 6-paragraph paper essay instead of a 5-paragraph? What is that 5th paragraph that I have you write? Okay, a refutation. So I have every one of my writing students write a refutation on their own thesis. So it brings in the other side. Why would I want to do that?
To prove your thesis even more, to tell the reader why the other side is false.
That's one reason, yes. To prove your thesis even more by telling the other side. And what are some other reasons? But that's a good one. What are some other reasons?
To prove it to yourself.
Okay, that's good too. Yeah. You also build trust with the other person that believes that way. If they're going to be reading your paper, you're building trust, saying, okay, I can look at your side. I want to look at your side. And here's why I think it's inadequate. We really should always falsify our opinions. And we should always do it to the point that we want to find truth. I had a really wonderful discussion with my father-in-law. Time is over now. If anybody needs to leave, go ahead. But with my father-in-law this last weekend about some facts that he had found. And I said, did you fact check them? And he said, no. How do you do that? And I talked to him about it. And then we went and we looked at percentages and math. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but he realized he had changed his opinion by the end of our discussion because he started to think. He started to falsify what he was thinking by looking at facts and percentages, and it was really amazing. And that's what we want to do, is when we believe some way, we need to figure out, is this really the truth? Why is it the truth? Why do I believe it? And what would happen if I believed otherwise? Anyway, really important. Second third of this book. And oh, by the way, I have not heard from anybody else. So we are, after the second third, we're going to have our spring break. We'll have it on the 15th. Is that what it was? 15th. So we'll start. So our last day of class will be next week. Not last day of class, but it'll be next week. And then we'll have a break until the 24th. Okay. So I thought of one other person that wasn't here. Hannah actually will be gone that week of the 15th too. So we have 2 students taking trips on that week. And I just thought it would be best if we just not have class that time. This has been a fabulous class. Thank you all. Each one of you are very admirable. I love having you in class. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.